Chosen one. Listen carefully. Heaven has pressed pause on everything around you so that this moment could happen. This is not random. This is not the algorithm. This is the God of all creation calling you by name. There is a stillness in the air right now. But it's not empty. It's charged with the weight of eternity. You know it. That stirring in your spirit isn't just emotion, it's recognition. You've felt the gentle tug of God before. But this is different. This is a summons. This is the kind of moment when destinies shift, when the path of your life either bends toward glory or drifts into shadows. God is not joking this time. The time for treating his call like background noise is over. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah. Chapter 29, verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. These are not just poetic words, they are your personal blueprint. Heaven's design for your life is already drawn, and the only question is whether you will walk in it. You have walked through storms that should have silenced you. You've been betrayed, pushed aside, overlooked. Yet here you are. Every night you thought would never end. Every prayer that seemed unanswered, it was all shaping you for this exact moment. God's hand has been steady, even when you couldn't see it. But hear me, patience is not the same as permission to delay. There is a holy urgency in the air right now. The pause you feel is not comfort, it's the moment before a trumpet blast. Doors are opening in the spirit realm, but they will not stay open forever. The people and patterns that once felt normal now feel heavy and suffocating because God is removing what cannot come with you into your next season. You've wondered if you missed your chance, but the very fact that you are hearing this proves you have not. Heaven doesn't waste its breath. If this word is finding you now, it's because your name is still written in the plan. Your calling is still alive, and the enemy's efforts to erase you have failed. Yet this is a crossroads. One more step toward compromise could blind you to the truth forever. This is why the tone is sharper today. God's voice is not just comforting, it's commanding. He is not asking you to consider. He is telling you to move. And I must tell you, the fight over your destiny has been violent. Angels have been dispatched to guard you, to pull you back from the brink, to keep you alive for such a time as this. The attacks against you have been fierce because you are dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. When you rise, others will rise with you, and hell knows it. So, stand up in your spirit right now. Don't just listen. Respond. Speak it out loud if you have to. I hear you. Lord, I will obey. Let it echo into the unseen realm that you are not here to blend in. You are here to carry light into the darkest places. If you have been waiting for a sign, this is it. God Himself has interrupted your day to tell you the time is now. Not tomorrow. Not after you figure everything out. Now. Because when the King calls, hesitation is rebellion. If this is striking your heart, don't hide it. Like this message. Share it, so the others who are marked can find it. And subscribe, so you stay connected to every word released here, because some instructions from heaven come in sequence. And missing the next one could cost more than you realize. Before this moment ends, seal it. Put a prophetic stamp on your obedience. In the comments, type the number 911, a number of urgent awakening. a signal that you are answering heaven's call without delay. Let the spirit realm know you have heard, you have chosen, and you are stepping forward. And remember this, when you declare your alignment with God openly, you're not just making a statement to people, you're sending shockwaves into the unseen. Demons recognize it, angels rally around it, and heaven records it. This is your moment to be counted among the faithful, to stand where few dare to stand, and to let your yes echo louder than every no that tried to stop you. You were marked before your first cry ever reached the air. Before you learned to walk, before you understood the sound of your own name, there was already a seal upon you. Heaven had already whispered over your life. This one is mine, and though the years have tried to bury that truth under pain, confusion, and distraction, it has never been erased. This is why your life has felt different from the beginning. Even when you tried to fit in, something inside resisted. You could play the part for a while, but deep down, you knew you were not built for ordinary valors. Your heart carried a frequency others couldn't hear, a compass pointing toward a place you had not yet seen. That invisible mark is the reason certain doors closed without explanation, the reason some friendships dissolved even when you wanted them to last, the reason you have felt the strange combination of longing and loneliness that no one else seemed to understand. The ancient words recorded in the book of Ephesians, chapter 1, verse 4 tell us, "For he chose us in him before the creation of the world, to be holy and blameless in his sight." That means you are not the result of chance. You are not a mistake that God had to fix. You are a design that he decided long before the earth even existed. And yet, the weight of being chosen is not light. Those marked early often walk roads that others never have to travel. You have endured seasons where the silence of God felt almost unbearable. Times when you wondered if he had forgotten you entirely. But what you didn't see then was that he was not absent. He was shaping you in the shadows, forming strength in you that could not be built any other way. It is no accident that your spirit reacts to certain situations with an instinctive pull toward righteousness. Even when your flesh resists, you may have tried to silence it, to drown it out with noise or busyness. But the call has remained. It will remain until you answer, because the one who marked you does not revoke his claim. You see, the seal on your life is not visible to the natural eye, but it is clear in the spiritual realm. The enemy sees it and fears it. Angels see it and guard it. Heaven sees it and invests in it. That's why your battles have been so strategic. They weren't just random hardships. They were targeted strikes meant to wear you down, to make you forget who you are. Think about it. How many times did the pressure on your life feel almost perfectly timed to stop you just as you were about to take a step forward? That's because the enemy recognizes your trajectory. If he can't erase the mark, he will try to convince you it doesn't matter. If he can't stop your calling, he will try to lure you into abandoning it. And still, here you are, not perfect, but present, not without scars, but still breathing. That is the evidence of the seal, that no matter how far you wandered, something kept pulling you back. No matter how low you fell, something kept lifting your head. But being marked is not just about being protected, it's also about being prepared. God has been putting certain tools in your hands. Even if you didn't recognize them as such, every heartbreak has sharpened your discernment. Every loss has deepened your compassion. Every delay has built your patience. And every time you refused to quit, your endurance grew. There's a reason you don't feel at home in the places where others settle. You're not meant to. Your mark means you belong to a mission, not just a moment. You are part of a plan that spans far beyond your own lifetime. Some of the seeds you plant will grow in fields you will never walk. But that does not make them any less important. So when you feel the weight of isolation, remember this: those who are marked often walk paths that are not crowded. Your road may be narrow, but it is leading somewhere wide and glorious. And though others may not understand it, you will know deep down that every step is taking you closer to the reason you were born. You are not like the rest, and you never will be. The sooner you stop trying to erase the seal, the sooner you will see the power it carries. That mark is your proof that heaven has claimed you, your guarantee that your life will not be wasted, and your reminder that God's plans for you have been set in motion long before you took your first breath. The weight you carry is not ordinary. It is the invisible proof of every unseen battle you've survived, every tear you've swallowed in silence, every time you've had to keep walking when no one else could see the storm raging around you. You have learned to live with a depth most people never touch, because God has been digging wells in your soul, preparing a reservoir of strength that will outlast the droughts ahead. You may have thought these seasons of hardship were punishments, but they were, in truth, investments. Heaven was not ignoring you, it was fortifying you. While others were running ahead with shallow roots, God was holding you back, pressing you deeper into the soil so that when your time comes to rise, no wind can uproot you. According to what is revealed in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 17, "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all." No, what feels unbearable now will one day feel small compared to the weight of what God is about to place in your hands. This is why the rejection you faced didn't break you, it refined you. This is why the closed doors you cried over were actually mercy in disguise. You were never meant to live in the places you were trying to force open. God saw what you couldn't see and was protecting you from assignments that looked like blessings but would have drained you to emptiness. The truth is, you have carried more than most, and you've done it with a grace that doesn't make sense. Even in your weakest moments, there was a quiet power holding you upright. You might not have noticed it at the time, but heaven did, and the enemy did. That is why the warfare around your life has been relentless. It's not because you're weak, it's because you are loaded with purpose. Your life is a contradiction to the plans of darkness. Every morning you wake up and choose to keep going is another day hell loses ground. You don't even realize how many lives have been strengthened simply by watching you stand when you could have fallen. But this is not the time to downplay what God is doing in you. You cannot afford to treat this as a maybe season. There is an urgency now, a narrowing of the road that demands you decide fully which way you will go. You are standing at a threshold, and the way you respond here will set the tone for everything that comes next. So I want you to declare it, not just in your heart, but publicly, as a sign in the spirit realm that you are claiming this word as yours. In the comments, type, "My yes stands." Write it, because it is more than a phrase, it is a prophetic contract. When you put those words out there, you're telling heaven that your agreement with God is not conditional, not fragile, not dependent on how easy the road feels. You're telling the enemy that no amount of pressure will make you take it back. When you write those 3 words, You are saying, even if the road is lonely, even if the cost is high, even if I do not yet understand all that is ahead, I will still go where you send me. You are announcing that your answer is final. It's not a hesitant yes that waits for signs and proof. It's the kind of yes that walks into the unknown because you trust the one who leads. It's a declaration that you will not renegotiate your obedience when the path becomes narrow. This single act places you in the company of every faithful servant who chose God's voice over their comfort. And it becomes a living testimony that your commitment is not for sale. Chosen one. Your resilience is not just for survival, it's a signal. The moment you make your yes unshakable, you will find the ground beneath you growing firm, and the road ahead illuminated in ways you couldn't see before. And know this: once you step into that posture of unwavering obedience, you become a threat to every dark scheme assigned against your life. The storms may still come, but they will no longer have the power to move you. Your yes becomes a fortress, a place where fear cannot enter. Heaven records such decisions, and the ripple effect will travel far beyond your own lifetime, touching lives and generations you may never meet on earth. This is the power of one soul who refuses to retreat. There comes a moment when even mercy seems to tremble, not because God's love has weakened, but because his patience has reached a point where action is required. This is not about him turning against you, it's about him refusing to let you live below the destiny he has written. There is a line in every story where delay is no longer harmless, and you are standing close to it now. You may not realize how many times heaven has intervened to protect you from your own hesitation. Opportunities you didn't even know you missed were kept in reserve. Situations that could have trapped you were quietly dismantled before they touched you. Yet, each intervention carries a purpose, and that purpose is to bring you to a decision. Mercy is not a cushion for endless waiting. It is a bridge designed to get you to the other side. The ancient words recorded in the book of Hebrews, chapter 3, verse 15 say, "Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts." Oh, this is not just a poetic suggestion, it is a warning born from love. Hardened hearts do not happen overnight, they form slowly, layer upon layer. Each time we ignore the nudge to obey, God's silence, when it comes, is rarely sudden. Before silence, there are whispers. Before whispers, there is urging. Before urging, there is instruction. And when every softer attempt has been ignored, the tone shifts. Not because he stops caring, but because he refuses to watch you drift past the point of no return. If you look back, you may notice a pattern. Seasons where God's voice was almost constant. Moments when you could feel him everywhere. And then stretches where it seemed like the sky was closed. Those silent seasons were not punishment, they were wake-up calls. They were the echo of his question, "Will you follow me? Even when you cannot feel me." You see, mercy has a rhythm. It moves toward you. It waits with you. And if needed, it steps back not to abandon, but to let you feel the weight of distance. That space is not his rejection, it is the consequence of continually choosing other voices over his. There is danger in assuming there will always be more time. Time is not endless in the way we imagine it. God's purposes are tied to seasons, and seasons shift. The opportunity you have now will not wait forever, because the assignment it carries is meant for this exact moment in history. Think about the parable of the 10 virgins, 5 prepared. 5 unprepared. The ones without oil did not stop believing in the bridegroom. They simply assumed they could prepare later. But when the moment came, the door was shut. It wasn't hatred that kept them out. It was the reality that the appointed time had passed. That is why this moment is so weighty. You are not hearing this by accident. This is not simply another encouraging thought. It is a line in the sand. God is reminding you that His patience is not to be mistaken for passivity. He is actively waiting for your response. But He will not wait indefinitely. You have already seen glimpses of what happens when people resist His call for too long. The brightness in their eyes fades. The clarity in their spirit dulls. They lose the sensitivity to recognize His voice. And slowly, they adapt to a life without it. That is the blindness Scripture warns about, not physical sight lost, but the inability to perceive the things of God. This is the edge you must not cross. Every small act of obedience pulls you back from it. Every time you say yes to His leading, you soften your heart and sharpen your hearing. You realign yourself with the flow of His purpose, and the gap between you and Him begins to close again. Mercy trembling is not the end. It is the warning before the door swings shut. It is the vibration in the air before the trumpet sounds. And right now, that tremor is here, pressing on your spirit, not to crush you, but to shake loose every excuse that has kept you from moving forward. If you truly understood how thin the line is between calling and silence, you would not hesitate. You would drop every lesser thing and step fully into what He has been telling you all along. Because once you have crossed that line, the journey back is not impossible, but it is harder, longer, and costlier than you think. You are hearing this because the door is still open. You are reading these words because heaven is still reaching for you. But even open doors close. And once they do, no amount of knocking can force them open again. Mercy is not gone yet. The trembling is not a collapse. It is the signal that your moment is now. And if you step through while it is still shaking, you will find not only safety on the other side, but a clarity you have never known. There is only so long you can hide what God has placed inside you. A light that has been lit by heaven will always find a way to break through the cracks. You might cover it for a time. You might blend into the shadows. But eventually the fire will start to burn through everything you've tried to layer on top. And when it does, you will realize you were never made for concealment. You've probably felt it already. The restlessness, the sense that staying silent is becoming harder than speaking up, that the place you've been in is too small for who you are becoming. It's not arrogance, it's calling. It's the holy dissatisfaction that comes when God is stretching your capacity and showing you that you cannot live a lifetime in the waiting room. The Apostle reminds us in his letter to the Philippians, chapter 2, verse 15, "Then you will shine among them like stars in the sky." This is not just poetic, it is prophetic. You are meant to be visible in the darkness, a point of reference for those searching for the way. Hiding has a cost. Every time you shrink back, someone who needs the light you carry walks another day in darkness. Every time you silence your testimony, someone else's breakthrough is delayed. This is not to put unbearable pressure on you. It is to remind you that your obedience has ripple effects you may never fully see. And here is the truth. God will not force you to shine, but He will keep sending reminders until you understand that your light was never meant for storage. The gifts you carry are not ornaments. They are weapons against despair, against fear, against lies. Your silence does not just protect you, It inadvertently protects the darkness. You have survived too much to keep quiet now. You've been rescued from pits you didn't think you'd climb out of, healed in ways no one else could take credit for. That story in your mouth is not just for you. It is a lifeline for someone else who doesn't yet know there is a way out. This is why I am speaking plainly. Step out from behind the curtain. Start where you are. Open your mouth. Move your feet. Write the words. Pray the prayer, whatever the form. Let the light out. You don't need the perfect setup. You just need a willing heart. And if this word is stirring something deep in you, if you know it's time for your light to be seen, then don't keep it locked away. Like this message, so it stays where you can return to it. Share it, so it reaches the ones who are still hiding. Subscribe, so you never miss the next word God is releasing here. And if you feel led, sow into this work, whether through prayer, encouragement, or a financial gift, so that this light can keep traveling further than either of us could go alone. But understand this, your light will never run out because you share it. In God's kingdom, the more you pour out, the more He fills you. That's why some of your greatest breakthroughs will come right after you've given something away, not just your resources, but your faith, your words, your courage. So let this be your turning point. The moment where you not only recognize the light in you, but you choose to uncover it for good. The moment where you refuse to go back into hiding, no matter how comfortable the shadows once felt. Because the world doesn't just need another voice, it needs your voice. It doesn't just need another testimony, it needs your testimony. And the only thing standing between you and the impact you were born for is the decision to step forward now. You have hidden long enough. The city on the hill was never meant to be wrapped in a blanket. The lamp was never meant to be buried under a basket. And you, child of God, were never meant to be invisible. So, shine. Shine with the fire that hell couldn't extinguish. Shine with the joy that trials couldn't take. Shine with the hope that death itself could not crush. And watch how far the light travels when you finally let it loose. And when you see it spread, lighting hearts, breaking chains, restoring. Hope you will understand why God refused to let you hide. Every moment you thought was wasted will reveal itself as preparation. Every scar will shine as proof that you survived, and you will stand knowing, this is why you were chosen. There are moments when heaven marks a shift, and you can feel it in your spirit before you see it with your eyes. This is one of those moments. The atmosphere around your life is changing subtly, but undeniably. The tug you've been feeling in your heart is not random emotion. It's the call to align yourself fully with what God is doing right now. Alignment is not just about belief, it's about movement. You can believe in the promises of God and still live outside their flow if you do not act. It's like standing beside a river but never stepping in. The water is there. The current is strong, but it will not carry you until you move your feet. Heaven speaks clearly through the writings in Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 19. I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your children may live. And God never hides the stakes. He tells you plainly that your choices matter not only for you, but for those who will walk after you. You've been sensing a narrowing lately. Things you once tolerated now feel heavier. Patterns that used to distract you no longer satisfy. This is what happens when God is preparing you for greater responsibility. He begins to strip away everything that dulls your hearing or slows your steps. But here is the danger. The window for alignment is not endless. When God calls you to step in, it is because there is a divine timing at work. What He is setting in motion will happen with or without your participation. His desire is for you to be part of it, but He will not hold the whole plan hostage to wait for your hesitation. This is why certain moments in your life feel different, charged with a kind of holy urgency. This is one of them. Your willingness to obey now will open doors that will not open any other way. And this obedience is not only about big, dramatic gestures. Often, it's about small, consiste décision, the choice to forgive, the choice to turn off the noise so you can hear His whisper, the choice to walk away from something that everyone else says is fine, but you know is poisoning your spirit. These quiet decisions are what strengthen your alignment until you can't be moved. If you could see the spiritual ripple effects of your obedience, you would not hesitate for even a second. Angels are dispatched when you step into God's will. Resources shift in the unseen to meet you in the place of alignment. Battles you didn't even know were being fought on your behalf begin to turn in your favor. And yet, the enemy knows this. That's why resistance often increases right before a breakthrough. The closer you are to full alignment, the louder the distractions will get. The more important the decision, the more urgent the temptation to delay. But you are not unaware of his schemes. You can feel the pull of destiny stronger than the pull of distraction, and now it's time to respond to it. I want you to mark this moment, not with a vague, "I'll think about it," but with a prophetic act. There is something powerful about putting a visible seal on an invisible decision. It's like placing a flag in the ground of your own heart, declaring to heaven and hell alike, "This is where I stand." Oh, in the comments, type the number 444, not just as a number, but as a declaration that you are stepping into alignment with God's timing. In Scripture, 4 often represents completeness in creation, the north, south, east, and west, the 4 corners of the earth, the foundation of what is stable and whole. By typing 444, you're declaring that your life is coming into complete alignment with God's will, that you will be unshakable, and that your steps will be ordered in every direction. And as you do, I understand that you are not just making a private choice, you are sending a signal into the spiritual atmosphere. The enemy will see it and know he has lost the leverage he once held. Heaven will see it and begin to pour resources into your path. The people around you may not understand it, but in time, they will see the fruit of a life fully aligned with the one who called it into being. Chosen one. The time for halfway decisions is over. The time for wondering is done. You have been given this moment, this call, and this choice. Step into the current while the water is stirring. You were made for this exact time. There is a point in every journey where the stakes rise, where the cost of compromise becomes too high to ignore. You can feel that point when it arrives. It's not just a matter of knowing right from wrong, it's the realization that the next wrong step could set in motion consequences that cannot be easily undone. This is what it means to stand at the edge of rebellion. It is not always a loud, defiant rejection of God. Often, it's quiet, subtle, almost reasonable in its excuses. It begins with small allowances, decisions you convince yourself are harmless, steps you take thinking you can always turn back later. But each step dulls your sensitivity. Each delay makes his voice fainter, until one day you cannot remember the last time you truly felt his leading. The ancient words recorded in Proverbs, chapter 14, verse 12. Vanus, there is a way that appears to be right, but in the end it leads to death. Lo, this is the sobering truth. Rebellion rarely looks like rebellion at the start. It often looks like the easier path, the more comfortable choice, the road that demands less surrender. You have likely felt that pull before the whisper that says, just this once, or you can fix it later. But what seems like a single compromise is often the first stone in a path that leads far from where you were meant to go. And the further you walk, the harder it is to return. Not because God's grace is absent, but because your own heart grows resistant to it. That is why vigilance is not optional for the chosen. The more God entrusts to you, the more fiercely the enemy will attempt to erode your convictions. He knows he may not be able to destroy you outright, but if he can get you to live in a perpetual state of half-obedience, he can limit the impact of your calling. Rebellion is not only an act, it is a posture of the heart. It's the decision to withhold a part of yourself from God, to say, you can have this much, but no more. It is the silent refusal to surrender something he is asking for, whether that be a habit, a relationship, a plan, or even a dream. And here is the danger. The heart can become so skilled at self-justification that you no longer recognize rebellion for what it is. You call it wisdom. You call it balance. You call it protecting yourself. But beneath all the reasoning is the truth. You are saying no to the one who gave you life. God does not expose this to shame you. He reveals it so that you can turn back before the damage becomes irreversible. His conviction is mercy in motion. The guardrail on the edge of a cliff. When you feel that inner tightening, that holy discomfort, it is not condemnation, it is a rescue. This edge you are standing on is not meant to scare you into paralysis, but to wake you into awareness. The enemy would have you believe that you can drift indefinitely, that there will always be another opportunity to realign. But the history of Scripture and the testimony of countless lives tell a different story. There is a point where the window closes, not because God changes his heart, but because we have hardened ours. Look back for a moment. Consider the times you were closest to losing your way. You will see that it was rarely a sudden collapse. It was always a series of small concessions. A prayer skipped, a conviction ignored, a warning dismissed. And yet, in each of those moments, there was still a chance to turn, still a door open to repentance. That door is open now. You have not crossed beyond the reach of his mercy, but you cannot keep standing here forever, peering over the edge and thinking you will not fall. The safest move is not to balance on the boundary, it is to step back entirely, to run toward the center of his will, where your footing is firm. The edge of rebellion is not where the chosen belong. You are not called to live in constant negotiation with God. You are called to trust him fully, to walk where he leads, without holding anything back. And if you choose that today, if you turn from the edge before you slip, you will find that the ground beneath you steadies again. The fog lifts, and his voice grows clear, not because he moved closer, but because you did. There are victories you will never see with your eyes, yet they shape the course of your life every single day. The battles fought for you in the unseen have been fierce, and many of them have already been won without your awareness. You think of the times you were protected from accidents, from people, from decisions that could have destroyed you, but those are just the visible edges of a much larger war. The enemy's strategy against you did not begin when you became aware of your calling. It began the moment you were marked. Every season of your life has been contested territory. Every step forward, a challenge to the forces, determined to keep you from your purpose. But you have never fought alone. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 34, verse 7. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them. Then, this is not a poetic metaphor, it is a spiritual reality. Even when you felt abandoned, the armies of heaven were stationed at your side. Consider the times you felt an unexplainable peace in the middle of chaos. That was not coincidence. It was the presence of God holding you steady while the battle raged unseen. The storm you thought would crush you could not cross the line heaven had drawn. Some of your greatest victories happened in the moments you thought nothing was happening. While you were sleeping, angels were dismantling traps set against you. While you were praying and hearing no answer, God was shifting things you could not yet see. While you were simply choosing to keep walking, entire strategies of darkness were collapsing under the weight of His authority. The night the darkness fled was not necessarily the night you felt strongest. It was often the night you were weakest, the night you barely held on, the night you whispered a prayer that felt too small to matter. Yet it was that prayer that triggered movement in the unseen. The enemy wants you to believe that what you cannot see is not real. But the kingdom of God does not work that way. The most decisive battles are often fought in silence, in prayer, in perseverance when no one else is watching. The fact that you are still standing is evidence that the darkness has already lost more ground than you know. Think of the times you suddenly felt a situation shift, the heaviness lift, the way forward open. That wasn't luck. It was the moment the forces opposing you were pushed back. You may never know the full story until eternity, but you will recognize the pattern. Your persistence in faith always provokes heaven's defense. And this truth should shape the way you see your present challenges. Just because the darkness still pushes against you does not mean it is winning. The very fact that it pushes so hard is proof that it is losing ground. The enemy does not waste resources where there is no threat. If the battle is intense, it is because your presence in that place is a problem to him. The night the darkness fled is not just in your past, it is a promise for your future. You will face other battles. Yes, but the same God who surrounded you before will surround you again. The same angels who encamped around you will not abandon their post. When you feel weary, remember that your fight is part of something much larger. You are not a lone soldier trying to survive. You are part of a kingdom that is advancing. Every step you take forward sends a ripple through the spiritual realm. Every act of faith reinforces the victory already secured on your behalf. One day, you will see clearly just how many times you were delivered without even knowing you were in danger. You will see the traps you never fell into, the battles you never had to fight because they were won before they reached you. And you will understand that your survival was never a matter of luck. It was always the intentional, unrelenting defense of a God who refuses to let darkness write the end of your story. Until then, walk with the quiet confidence of someone who is protected. The war is real. The battles are fierce. But the victory is certain, and much of it has already been won. And when you walk into tomorrow, remember, every step you take is on ground that has already been fought for, claimed, and secured by heaven's hand long before your feet touched it. There are moments when silence is no longer an option. You have felt the stirrings before those moments when your heart began to beat faster. When you knew deep down that God was drawing a line in the sand and asking you to stand on one side or the other. You can't stay in the shadows forever. The more you try to blend in, the more uncomfortable it becomes. Not because you are doing something wrong, but because your spirit recognizes that the season of hiding is over. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Elijah, as recorded in the first book of Kings, chapter 18, verse 21. How long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. There is no room left for wavering. Wavering might feel safe, but in reality, it slowly drains your strength. It keeps you trapped in the same place, year after year, with no growth and no breakthrough. There comes a time when you must make your allegiance known not just to God, but also to yourself. Until you declare it, you leave, the door cracked open for doubt, compromise, and fear to walk back in. That declaration is not for show. It's a stake driven into the ground of your own soul. Every generation has its moments when the chosen ones must speak. Even when the atmosphere is heavy and the opposition is loud, silence can be wisdom in some seasons. But in others, it is surrender. And right now, silence would not be safety. It would be forfeiting the ground you have gained. When you open your mouth to declare your alignment, it's not just about the words, it's about what happens in the unseen. Your voice becomes a signal flare in the spiritual realm. Heaven hears it and moves to back you up. Darkness hears it and knows you are no longer pretending to be neutral. Sometimes that declaration is a shout. Sometimes it's a whisper made in trembling faith. Sometimes it's words spoken through tears. But no matter the form, it must be said. This is why I am asking you to do something deliberate in this moment. Put it into words. In the comments, type, "I choose him." Simple, but weighty. Just 3 words. But they carry eternal significance. When you write it, you're doing more than responding to a message. You're marking a moment in your life. You're telling heaven, I am available. You're telling the enemy, I am not yours. You're telling yourself, I will not waver anymore. And once those words are spoken and written, they have a way of anchoring your spirit in ways that private, silent thoughts cannot. Think of it like the Israelites painting their door frames with blood before the Passover. The act itself didn't seem mighty, but it was a visible declaration that they belonged to God, and it marked them for protection. Your words work in a similar way. They are not just letters on a screen. They are a visible mark in the realm of the Spirit. You might think, does it really matter if I type something? Yes, it does. Because faith is not meant to be invisible forever. Faith is meant to be expressed. And sometimes the smallest visible act can shift the entire direction of your life. The enemy thrives in ambiguity. As long as you stay vague about your allegiance, he will keep pressing in, testing boundaries, whispering doubts. But the moment you state clearly who you belong to, his ability to manipulate you is diminished. And here is the truth. There will be people watching you who are waiting for permission to be bold themselves. Your simple declaration might be the spark that ignites someone else's courage. You have no idea how far the ripple will go. There is power in public agreement with God. It's why Jesus said, "Whoever acknowledges me before others, I will also acknowledge before my Father in heaven." That's not a suggestion, that's a promise. It's a covenant exchange. You honor him here, and he honors you there. So, don't miss this. Don't let the moment pass while you think about it. Every delay is an opportunity for the enemy to plant another seed of hesitation. But when you respond immediately, you seize the momentum. The Spirit is building in you right now. This is your line in the sand. You have heard the call. You have felt the pull. Now is the time to put it into words. Type, "I choose him," and know that as you do, heaven leans in to listen. Angels stand ready to act, and the heart of God delights in your boldness. Let your declaration echo beyond this moment. Let it be the seed that grows into a new chapter, one where you no longer waver, no longer hesitate, and no longer live half in the light and half in the shadows. From this day forward, let your life tell the world who you belong to. Your crown is not a vague symbol, it is a reality, prepared and waiting. Heaven has been fashioning it from the moments you chose: obedience over comfort, truth over compromise, and perseverance over quitting. Every trial you endured, every step you took in faith, has been weaving glory into that crown. But a crown is not placed on someone hiding in the shadows. It is given to those who stand in the open, carrying themselves as heirs to the kingdom. A crown is both a reward and a responsibility. It tells the world who you belong to and what authority you walk in. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Isaiah, chapter 62, verse 3. You will be a crown of splendor in the Lord's hand, a royal diadem in the hand of your God. This is not just a promise of something you will wear, it is a declaration of what you already are in His sight. You may not feel worthy of a crown. Maybe you're still thinking of your failures, the moments you hesitated, the times you stumbled. But your crown is not earned by flawless performance. It is given because you finished the race. The victory is in the completion, not in never tripping. And here's the truth. The enemy would love for you to live your whole life, never realizing the authority and inheritance you already have. If he can convince you that you're too flawed to walk like royalty, he can keep you living like a prisoner, even while your name is on the guest list for the coronation. But God is calling you to lift your head. You are not a beggar at the edge of His table. You are a son, a daughter, with a seat reserved and a crown prepared. Every step you take toward Him is a step closer to wearing that crown, not just in eternity, but in how you carry yourself now. The time to step into that identity is now, not when you feel ready, not when you think you've earned it. Now, because the more you walk in who you truly are, the more that truth begins to shape your choices, your courage, and your impact. And if this is speaking to your spirit, if you feel the pull to rise into your true position, then do something with it. Like this message, so it stays close when doubt tries to return. Share it so that others who are still crouched in fear can be reminded they were made for crowns, not chains. Subscribe so you won't miss the words that will keep building this truth in you. And if you feel led, sow into this work, whether through prayer, encouragement, or a financial gift, so that this message can keep reaching the ones who are still fighting for their crowns. Because here's the thing, when you invest in the kingdom, you're not just supporting a message, you're strengthening an army. Every seed you plant goes toward lifting someone else's head, putting courage back into weary hearts, and reminding them that their crown is still waiting. And I'll tell you this, you will see the fruit of your investment. Maybe not always directly, maybe not always in ways you expect. But the day will come when heaven lets you glimpse the lives that were changed, because you decided to be part of the mission. But don't miss the deeper call here. This isn't just about giving or sharing, it's about living crowned. That means carrying yourself with the dignity of someone who knows they are chosen. It means refusing to accept the labels and limitations that life has tried to place on you. It means walking with the awareness that everywhere you step, you carry the presence of the King. Your crown is a testimony. It tells the world that God finishes what He starts, that His grace redeems and restores, and that no one who stands faithful will stand forgotten. So lift your head, straighten your shoulders, step forward as one who knows their place in the kingdom. The crown is not just for some distant day, it is already being formed in your life. Moment by moment, choice by choice. And when you wear it fully in the way you think, speak, act, and love, you will find that the world begins to see the one who placed it on your head. That is the real victory, not just receiving the crown, but using it to point back to the King who called you worthy of it. The chosen are not called to merely survive, they are called to carry the fire. Survival keeps you breathing, but fire changes the atmosphere around you. When God entrusts you with His flame, it is because He intends for you to ignite what has grown cold, to bring light where the shadows have settled, and to awaken life where hearts have fallen asleep. Carrying fire is not a comfortable assignment. It draws attention both from those who are drawn to the light and from those who are disturbed by it. Some will see your flame as a beacon of hope, while others will see it as a threat to the darkness they've grown accustomed to. This is why those who carry fire must also carry courage, according to what is revealed in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 20, verse 9. His word is in my heart like a fire shut up in my bones. I am weary of holding it in. Indeed, I cannot. This is the testimony of every true torchbearer. When the fire burns in you, silence becomes impossible. But the fire does not start as a roaring blaze. It often begins as a spark, small, quiet, almost unnoticeable. It is fed in the secret place, in prayer, in the daily surrender, when no one is watching. That hidden discipline is what builds a flame that can withstand the winds of opposition. Those who carry fire understand that it is not their own. It is entrusted to them by God, and it carries His nature. Fire in Scripture refines, purifies, consumes what cannot remain, and illuminates the way forward. To carry it is to agree to be refined yourself, to let the heat strip away the impurities in your own life, so that the light you give off is pure. The journey of a fire carrier is marked by both beauty and weight. You will find moments of great joy as you see the flame ignite hope in others. But you will also feel the loneliness of knowing that not everyone will welcome what you carry. Fear disrupts confort. It demands change. It leaves nothing as it was before. And yet, this is exactly why God gives it to His chosen ones. Darkness cannot resist light, and the cold cannot resist heat. The fire in you is not meant to be hidden in safe places. It is meant to enter the coldest rooms, the darkest streets, the most lifeless situations. There is a reason you have felt out of place in certain environments. It is not because you are lacking, but because you are carrying something that those environments cannot contain. The fire in you exposes what is false and reveals what is true. And that exposure will make some people uneasy. But remember, your job is not to make people comfortable, it is to make them see. If you ever doubt the value of what you carry, Look at the resistance it attracts. The enemy does not waste energy on those who pose no threat. If the pressure against you has been heavy, it is because the fire in you is dangerous to the plans of darkness. But fire needs tending. Neglect it, and it will fade. Feed it, and it will grow strong enough to withstand storms. This is why your time with God cannot be optional. The more you remain in His presence, the more fuel your spirit gathers. The Word of God is your kindling. Worship is the breath that fans the flame. Obedience is the oil that keeps it burning. And never forget, the fire is not for you alone. You are a carrier, not a keeper. What you have been given is meant to be passed on, to ignite others until they too become torchbearers. The kingdom advances not by one flame burning brighter than all the rest, but by the light multiplying until the darkness has nowhere left to hide. One day, you will look back and see the path you walked, lit by the fire you carried. You will see places that were cold, now warm with the presence of God. You will see people who were once stumbling in the dark, now walking with their own torches. And you will know it was worth every step, every sacrifice, every moment you chose to let the fire shine. The chosen do not simply survive the night, they set it ablaze. And that is who you are, a carrier of the fire, trusted with the light of the kingdom, destined to ignite the world around you until it reflects the glory of the one who lit the flame in you. There are moments in the life of the chosen where God calls for a visible sign of covenant, a prophetic act that seals your yes in both the natural and spiritual realms. This is one of those moments. You have walked through seasons that tested your loyalty, endured pressures that could have broken your resolve, and yet here you stand. That is no accident. It is proof of a covenant that has been upheld not just by your faithfulness, but by His. The seal is not about proving something to God. He already knows your heart. It is about reminding yourself and declaring to the unseen realm that you belong to Him without reservation. The ancient words recorded in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 9, verse 4, speak of a mark placed on those who are set apart. Put a mark on the foreheads of those who grieve and lament over all the detestable things that are done in it. That mark was a sign of divine recognition and protection. In our time, it is no longer ink or physical seal. It is your open declaration of belonging to the King. The number you declare today is not magic. It's a prophetic banner. In Scripture, numbers often carry deep meaning. 7 speaks of completion. 12 of divine order. 3 of resurrection. And today, I am asking you to write a number that declares your position in the kingdom, 888. 8 is the number of new beginnings. 888 magnifies that reality, a season not just of starting over, but of walking in the abundance, favor, and authority of a life fully aligned with God's plan. By declaring 888, you are saying, I step into my new beginning, not in my own strength, but under the seal of heaven. End 1. You have felt it already, something shifting in the atmosphere around you. Old cycles losing their grip, doors that were locked beginning to open. This is not coincidence. It is the unfolding of God's timing in your life. The prophetic act of marking this moment with 888 is like planting a flag at the edge of your past and stepping into your future. When you type it, you are not just leaving a comment, you are inscribing a statement into the spiritual narrative of your life. Angels recognize it as agreement. The enemy recognizes it as withdrawal from his influence. Heaven records it as a moment of covenant renewal. Do not underestimate small acts of obedience. Often, they carry more weight than we realize. When Israel marched around Jericho, it wasn't the volume of their shout that brought the walls down, it was their obedience to do what seemed small and strange. Typing 88. The 8th of May seems simple, but in the unseen, it is loaded with meaning. It is saying, I will not go back. I will not negotiate with my old chains. I will walk forward into the fullness of what I was born for. Unfruit. There will be days ahead when the old will try to call you back. Doubt will whisper. Distraction will tug. But you will remember this moment, the day you marked your spirit with a number that carried the weight of a promise. So write it. Let it be your seal today. And let heaven and hell both know you have chosen your side, and you will not be moved. Because this number is not just about a single day, it is about the unfolding of a new chapter. 888 speaks of more than just fresh beginnings. It is a declaration that what is starting now will carry the fullness of God's design. It is not a partial reset where some chains are left intact. It is a complete release. A crossing over into territory where the old no longer has authority over you. When you step into this prophetic new beginning, you also step into a greater measure of responsibility. New seasons bring new assignments, and new assignments require new levels of faith. The same obedience that brought you here will be the foundation for where God is taking you next. And here's what you must understand. The moment you step forward, the atmosphere shifts. Heaven begins to release resources, wisdom, and connections that were withheld in the previous season because you weren't yet ready to carry them. The timing of God is perfect, not just in opportunity, but in preparation. One day, you will look back at this moment marked by 888 and realize that it was not just symbolic, it was the turning point. The invisible line between what was and what will be. The day your yes was not just whispered in private, but declared openly, sealed in a way that even time cannot erase. There comes a stage in the journey of the chosen when the cost of obedience rises sharply early on. The steps God asked you to take may have felt challenging, but they were often within reach. You could rearrange your plans, make small sacrifices, and still feel comfortable. But as you grow, the assignments He gives you begin to demand more. They require pieces of you that you once thought were untouchable. This is the place where obedience begins to feel like loss. You might be asked to let go of relationships that have been part of your life for years, to release dreams you've carried since childhood, or to walk away from opportunities that seem good but are not God's best. In these moments, the question is no longer, can I obey? But, will I obey when it costs everything? The voice of God thunders in the book of Genesis, chapter 22, verse 2. Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain. I will show you. Land. These were the words spoken to Abraham, and they strike at the heart of every believer who has ever been called to surrender the most precious thing they hold. Abraham's test was not about cruelty, it was about trust. God was not interested in taking Isaac from him. He was interested in proving that nothing came before him in Abraham's heart. And that is the essence of costly obedience, placing God above every person, possession, and plan. Even when it feels like the very thing you are surrendering is the promise itself. This kind of obedience will never be convenient. It will always cut deep. But it also carries the power to release blessings and breakthroughs that cannot come any other way. When Abraham lifted the knife, he stepped into a dimension of trust that opened the door for God to reveal himself as Jehovah Gyra, the Lord, who provides. The chosen must understand that provision often waits on the other side of obedience, not before, not during the hesitation, but after the surrender is complete, until you place what you love most into his hands. You will not see the fullness of what he has prepared for you. And here is the tension: you cannot fake this. God sees past appearances to the posture of your heart. You can say the right words, make the right gestures, and still hold something back inside. But when your surrender is genuine, it shifts the atmosphere. Heaven recognizes it, and the weight of his presence settles over your life in a way that changes you forever. Costly obedience also exposes the difference between calling and convenience. Convenience will follow God as long as the road is smooth and the rewards are quick. Calling will follow him up the mountain, knife in hand, not knowing what will happen, but trusting his character. You may be in that place right now, the mountain where what God is asking feels impossible. Maybe you're looking at the altar he's pointing to and wondering how you can possibly let go. If so, remember this: God's requests are never to harm you. His instructions are always aimed at a greater good you cannot yet see. It may be that the very thing he is asking you to lay down is what he intends to give back, renewed and multiplied. Once it no longer holds your heart above him, or it may be that he is making space for something entirely new to enter your life, something that could not come until your hands were empty. Either way, the test is the same. Will you trust him enough to obey when it costs more than you thought you could give? Will you believe that he is still good, still faithful, still working for your good? Even when the path is lined with sacrifice, the chosen are not spared from these moments. They are defined by them. And if you choose surrender here, you will find yourself standing in a place where God's provision is not a theory, but a reality you have lived. Like Abraham, you will name that place Jehovah Gyra, not because you read about it, but because you experienced it with your own life on the line. And from that moment forward, obedience will never look the same to you. It will no longer feel like loss, but like the key that unlocks the deepest treasures of God's heart. You will remember the mountain, the altar, and the moment his provision met your surrender, and you will walk into every future test with unshakable trust. There are moments in the life of the chosen when heaven shifts its stance. You can almost sense the movement, not in the physical realm, but deep in your spirit. What was quiet becomes charged. What felt still begins to stir. It is the moment when heaven's armies reposition for a decisive move, and you are invited to step in sync with them. The turning of the tide does not always come with dramatic signs. Sometimes it is as subtle as a renewed clarity, a sudden lightness in your spirit, or a fresh boldness that you can't explain. But make no mistake, when God orders the shift, the balance of the battle changes. The ancient words recorded in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14 remind us, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Stillness here is not passivity, it is confidence. It is the refusal to panic when the waters have not yet parted, because you know the one who holds the sea in his hands. When the tide turns, the enemy's advantage begins to crumble. Strategies that once worked against you suddenly fail. Attacks that used to shake you lose their power. It is not because the opposition disappears, but because the authority of God begins to push back the darkness in ways you cannot orchestrate on your own. There is a rhythm to spiritual warfare. Seasons of holding ground are followed by seasons of taking ground. The chosen often endure long stretches where progress feels slow, even invisible. But these times are not wasted. They are the preparation for the sudden shift. Just as a tide builds quietly before it surges, God often works beneath the surface before he moves in undeniable power. When this moment comes, you must be ready to move with him. The turning of the tide is not only a time of defense, it is a time of advancement. It is the season when the walls you have prayed against begin to crack. When the doors you have been knocking on start to open. When the resistance that held for years begins to give way. You may feel the change before you see the results. That is why discernment is crucial. The enemy will try to convince you that nothing has shifted, that you are still in the same place you have been for so long, but your spirit will recognize the difference. It will sense the nearness of breakthrough, the same way a sailor can smell the shore before it comes into view. In these moments, it is vital to stay aligned with God's voice. The tide turning does not mean the battle is over. It means the battle is tipping in your favor. And to walk in that advantage, you must keep in step with the one directing the movement. This is where the discipline you built in the quiet seasons becomes your strength. Prayer, worship, obedience, and trust. These are the anchors that hold you steady while the waters shift. Without them, you risk being swept away by the very movement meant to carry you forward. And remember this, when heaven's armies move, they are not only fighting for you, they are fighting for everyone. Your obedience will touch. The turning of the tide in your life will ripple outward, bringing freedom and breakthrough to people you may never even meet. There is also a weight to this moment. When God grants you ground, you are responsible for what happens on it. The freedom you gain is not just for your relief, it is for the expansion of his kingdom. That means protecting it, stewarding it, and using it to advance his purposes. As the tide turns, let your posture be one of readiness. Keep your eyes on the one leading the charge. Celebrate the victory as it unfolds, but also prepare for what comes next. Because the moment of shift is often followed by a call to step into new territory, you will know the tide has fully turned when what once felt impossible becomes inevitable, not because the obstacles have vanished, but because God's presence overshadows them. And when you stand on the other side of this shift, you will look back and realize that every season of waiting, every prayer prayed in the dark, was building toward this moment. You will see how even the setbacks were part of the strategy, how delays became divine positioning, and how your perseverance prepared you to carry what is being handed to you now. The turning of the tide will not just be a change in circumstances, it will be a testimony etched into your spirit forever. There is a sound in the spirit that is unlike any other, a sound that signals the closing moments before the door shuts. The final call before the procession moves forward, without those who hesitate. It is the sound of the final trumpet call. This is not a call you can afford to ignore. It carries urgency not to create fear, but to awaken you from the lull of delay. You have been given chances before, and grace has met you in your wandering. But the time for half decisions is over. The Apostle Paul writes in the first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 15, verse 52, "In a flash, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet, for the trumpet will sound, the dead will be raised, imperishable, and we will be changed. The final trumpet is not about music, it is about transformation. It marks the moment when what is temporary ends and what is eternal begins. You have been standing in the in-between for too long. The ground you are on right now is holy, not because it is comfortable, but because it is the threshold to what God has prepared for you. And once this call passes, you cannot assume the same opportunity will circle back in the same way. This is why the Spirit is pressing you to respond, to take your place, to step into your assignment, to refuse to keep circling the same ground. The trumpet is sounding over your life, and every moment you delay is ground the enemy gladly takes. If this word is stirring something deep in you, don't let it stay unspoken. Like this message, so it stays with you when the noise of life tries to drown it out. Share it so others who are still asleep in the in-between can hear the trumpet too. Subscribe, so you remain connected to the flow of these messages, because some calls come in sequence. And missing one could cost you more than you know. And if you feel led, sow into this work, whether in prayer, encouragement, or financial support, so that the sound of this trumpet can keep reaching those who haven't yet heard. And in the comments, write, "I am ready," as a prophetic declaration that when the trumpet sounds, you will be found standing in your place. The trumpet is not just for you, it's for the ones who are tied to your obedience. Your yes today can unlock doors for people you may never meet in this life. It can shift atmospheres in homes, workplaces, and even entire communities. And know this, the final trumpet call is not meant to push you into panic, it's meant to anchor you in readiness. When you live prepared, you won't fear the sound, you'll welcome it, because you'll know that it means the time you've been preparing for has arrived. You have already felt the tremors of this call in your own life, the restlessness, the stirring, the realization that the old ways cannot continue. These are the pre-echoes of the trumpet. When it sounds in full, there will be no mistaking it. But this is the mercy of God, that He lets you hear it in part before you hear it in full. He gives you the chance to align before the shift, so that when it comes, you are not scrambling, but standing ready. And readiness is more than a mindset, it's a way of living. It's the small daily choices that keep your oil full, your lamp burning, and your heart attuned to His voice. It's what separates those who are caught off guard from those who step forward with confidence. This is why I'm telling you plainly, do not let this call pass without response. Do not assume there will be another exactly like it. Every trumpet in Scripture signaled a decisive moment, to gather, to march, to prepare for victory. And in each case, those who ignored the sound found themselves on the outside of what God was doing. You are not meant to be on the outside. You are meant to be right in the center of the movement, carrying the light, walking in step with the King, wearing the armor of one who is not only called, but chosen and faithful. So hear it now, the final trumpet call is sounding over your life. Rise to meet it. Let your spirit say yes without hesitation. And when you do, you will find yourself exactly where you are meant to be when the door swings open for the last time. The chosen are not exempt from storms. They are often placed directly in their path. This is not because God wishes to see them struggle, but because storms reveal strength that calm seas never could. In the hands of the Father, every wind and wave becomes a tool to shape the vessel for the journey ahead. There is a depth to faith that only emerges when the surroundings are shaking. When the light dims and the horizon disappears, trust must move from theory to reality. It is here, in the dark hours when nothing feels certain, that the chosen discover the anchor, holding them firm. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 93, verse 4. Mightier than the thunder of the great waters, mightier than the breakers of the sea, the Lord on high is mighty. This is not poetic comfort alone, it is a declaration of authority. The waves may rise, but they are still subject to the one who commands them. In the storm, your perspective changes. What once seemed urgent loses importance. What once felt impossible becomes the very ground on which God displays his power. The chosen learn that peace is not the absence of waves, but the presence of Christ within the boat. It is tempting, when the storm rages, to believe you have been abandoned. The silence of heaven can feel heavier than the roar of the wind, but silence does not mean absence. In fact, some of the greatest demonstrations of his power come after seasons where he seems to be sleeping through the chaos, only to rise and rebuke the storm with a word. The chosen must also understand that storms are often directional. They are not random. They are allowed to steer you toward places you would not have gone otherwise. Paul's journey to Rome was marked by a violent storm that wrecked the ship. Yet that wreck placed him on Malta, where miracles unfolded and the gospel advanced. If you only measure storms by what they take, you will miss what they bring. Yes, storms strip away comfort, control, familiarity, but they also deliver you into divine appointments and prepare you for greater works. Another truth about storms: they expose foundations. Fair weather faith can look strong when skies are clear, but only the deeply rooted stand when the winds howl. Every storm you endure is a chance to drive your roots deeper, to prove in your own soul that you are built on the rock. This is why some storms seem longer than you expected. God is not punishing you, he is fortifying you. Each wave you face, without sinking, builds resilience. Each gust you withstand, without drifting, strengthens your grip. And when the skies clear, you will find that you are not the same. You are stronger, wiser, steadier. The chosen also carry responsibility in storms, not just for themselves, but for those around them. When others panic, you are called to be the voice that speaks faith. When others lose hope, your steadiness becomes a lifeline. You are not just enduring the storm, you are guiding others through it. And here is the promise: no storm lasts forever. There is always a shore, even if you cannot see it yet. The God who commands the waters knows exactly how far each wave is allowed to go. When its purpose is complete, it will cease, and you will step onto solid ground again. When that day comes, you will not emerge empty-handed. You will carry treasures that could only be gathered in the storm: deeper trust, proven faith, unshakable peace. These are the marks of one who has faced the fury of the sea and found that the Lord on high is indeed mightier. So when the winds rise, do not fear them. Let them drive you closer to him. Let them strip away what cannot last. And let them remind you, with every crash of the waves, that the one who called you will see you safely to the other side. Because when you step onto that shore, you will not be the same person who first set sail. The salt of the sea will cling to you as a reminder of the places you've survived. And the horizon will look wider because you have learned how to trust without seeing. You will carry a quiet authority, the kind that comes only from those who have seen storms bow to the voice of their king, and that authority will mark you for the rest of your journey. There comes a point when the journey of the chosen shifts from the battlefield to the place of fulfillment. It is not that the battles end, but that you begin to fight from a position of rest, knowing that the victory has already been secured. The constant tension of survival gives way to the steady rhythm of walking in what was promised. This place is not reached by accident. It is the result of every hidden surrender, every costly yes, every step taken in the dark when you could not see the outcome, each trial, each delay, each storm became part of the path that led you here. Now, as you stand in this space, you realize that the season you once prayed for has arrived. The voice of God thundered in the book of Joshua, chapter 21, verse 45. Not one of all the Lord's good promises to Israel failed. Everyone was fulfilled. Endra. This is the testimony that you are now beginning to live. The faithfulness of God is no longer just a truth you repeat. It is a reality you walk in. In this season, you will notice that the same ground you once fought for now yields fruit without the same level of striving. This is not because the enemy has given up, but because the authority you carry has matured. You are no longer learning to wield the weapons of faith, you are mastering them. The chosen in this place become builders, where once you were defending what little you had. Now, you are entrusted with expanding the territory. The prayers that were once about survival shift into prayers for multiplication, influence, and the raising up of others to carry the mantle. But fulfillment is not a finish line, it is a stewardship. The land you now occupy must be tended, cultivated, and guarded. Promises can be inherited, but they can also be neglected if not cared for. The same attentiveness that brought you here must remain if the blessing is to endure. In this space, you will also discover the joy of looking back, not to dwell in the past, but to see the thread of God's hand weaving every moment together. What once felt like detours reveal themselves as direct routes to where you were meant to be. Even the seasons of silence, which seemed pointless at the time, now shine with purpose. This is where gratitude deepens. You find yourself thanking God not only for the victories, but for the battles that shaped you to hold them. You thank Him for the delays that taught you patience, for the storms that forged resilience, for the losses that cleared space for greater gain. And now, you carry a responsibility to those who are still on the journey. Your story becomes a map, a living testimony that the God who brought you through will do the same for them. You are called to speak life into weary hearts, to remind them that the promise is worth the wait, and to stand as proof that not one word from His mouth will fail. There is also a quiet shift in how you see yourself. You are no longer the one simply trying to reach the promise, you are an heir living in it. This does not mean life will be without challenge, but it means you face each new challenge from a place of established trust. You know the character of the one who brought you here, and that knowledge steadies you in every new assignment. In the days ahead, you will be asked to dream again, not the small, survival-based dreams you once clung to, but larger ones that stretch your faith and align with the scale of God's kingdom. You will build, plant, mentor, and release. Because fulfillment is not meant to be hoarded, it is meant to overflow. So, stand here, in the land of fulfilled promises, and let the reality of His faithfulness settle deep into your spirit. Let it shape how you live, how you lead, and how you love. You are not here by chance, you are here by covenant. And that covenant will carry you into every chapter yet to be written. And when the next chapter begins, you will step into it with the calm assurance of one who has seen God's word come to pass. You will not waver at new obstacles, for your history with Him has become your greatest weapon. Each future promise will be met, not with anxious striving, but with the steady faith of someone who knows He will do it again. And now, chosen one, we have reached the end of this message, but not the end of your journey. What you have heard is not meant to be stored away as inspiration. It is meant to become action. Every truth, every scripture, every prophetic word carries the power to shape the days ahead if you choose to walk in it. The God who has carried you through each section of this journey is the same God who will meet you in the quiet moments when no one else sees. He is still speaking, still guiding, still preparing, but His voice is clearest when your heart stays positioned to listen. If this message has stirred something in your spirit, don't let it fade. Like this message, so it will remain close when the noise of the world tries to drown it out. Share it with someone who needs a reminder that their promise is still alive. Subscribe so you won't miss the next word that could meet you exactly where you are. And in the comments, write, "I will endure," as a public declaration that you will remain faithful to the end. And if you feel led, sow into this work through prayer, encouragement, or a financial gift so that this message can keep reaching those who are still in the fight. Your obedience today may be the spark that lights someone else's flame tomorrow. Never underestimate how far a single act of faith can travel. So rise, live as one who knows they are chosen, and carry the light into every corner you step into. Heaven is watching, hell is trembling, and the earth is waiting for what you carry. This is your time. Walk it out.